Thanks so much for tuning into this earnings conversation with Root Mobile. And the man who speaks to us today needs no introduction, really, Rajdip Gupta, the founder of the company, joins it to talk about how the start of the year was, and does the year hold promise in a scenario wherein the economic conditions around the world are sketchy at best. Rajdip, great having you. Thanks for joining in. Let's talk about the quarter, and then maybe the impact of the economic scenario on the outlook, if at all. Though I do see that you've increased or upped the revenue guidance, which is good news. But talk to us about the quarter. Revenue grew YOY a lot more sequentially to about 16%, and there was an expansion in EBITDA margins as well. So talk to us a bit about what went right in the quarter, and were there some things that didn't happen which spilled over into quarter two?
I think, good morning, Neeraj, and I think there are lots of time spent in last few quarters on all our acquisition. We acquired 3 to 4 companies in last few quarters, and I think we try to focus more on how to create a strategy between all the companies together to create upsell and cross-sell opportunity within the companies. That actually helped us in last quarter also, because with acquisition of Messavian in Latin America, we got the access of operator in those market. Since we work very closely with large OTT players and large enterprise customers, we are able to give better connectivity to these customers through Messavian. At the same time, Mr. Messaging gave us access to South Africa and European market. And I think the overall what we try to do is like how to use our internal strength to cross-sell and upsell opportunity, to create an opportunity within various market. And that has really helped us a lot. And we expanded ourselves in Ecuador, Chile, Peru, and Mexico, where we deployed lots of salespeople as well. And I think we started getting lots of, traction coming from those markets as well. Mr. Messaging is doing really well in the European market, and I think they are contributing a lot along with the Messavian. So I think overall synergy, if you see our expansion plan, our cross-sell and upsell opportunity within the group, help us a lot to increase our margin as well as our GP as well.
Interesting. So Rajdip, typically, as I understand from various other companies, not necessarily in your sector, but the cross-sell and upsell opportunities that come in through a network of acquisitions kind of builds out in stages and doesn't hit the crescendo in day one. So you've seen some fruit of this. Do you reckon that a larger traction and larger synergistic benefits will come in the quarters to come?
Yes, indeed. I think there are lots of integration we are doing on email right now with the various companies which we have acquired. Classic example, some of the acquisition which we have done, they were buying email services from SendGrid, a US-based company, which at very high price. Now, since email stack is our own, they are going to integrate our entire email platform within their own platform, which is going to save lots of cost, because email is everything, like in-house build. So I think the overall idea is like there are lots of, like WhatsApp or RCS or Viber capability the Messavian doesn't have that well what we already have. So we are all going to, deploy a stack within their platform so that they can just go in the market and start selling a product, So there are a lot to come, and we are very early stage of, creating the synergy between all the acquisition, and we are very successful last quarter, and probably we can see more attraction in this quarter or coming quarter.
Do these additional revenue opportunities that come in through cross-selling add to the top line alone, or do these come at better margins because the solution is already there? You're merely deploying it with a new player.
So better margin is definitely one area, because if you say email itself is a 70-80% margin, like if it's a voice solution, it's 40% margin. If it is a WhatsApp or RCS or Viber, it's over 30% margin. So I think overall, if you combine, SMS is also about 21 to 23% margin. If you go to Latin America market, where margin GP is over 35% on SMS as well. So I think it's a combination of everything, and the reason we are bullish about our margin growth also in coming quarters, because we believe that new channel of communication apart from messaging is also started generating more revenue and volume for us now.
Okay, so from 22.4% gross margins that I believe you hit this quarter, you've guided to 23% average for the rest of the year, right? Am I not wrong? All right.
Yes, it can be. Maybe it's more also, but I think we are guiding between 21 to 23 is what we are guiding, because there may be a particular quarter where we can get lots of volume, maybe and because of that, maybe some customer is on the lower, this thing. But again, between 21 to 23 is definitely a guidance which we want to give it to our stakeholder for this year.
So in which case it's steady state. You already hit that number and you kind of look to maintain it.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. One question that I had when I looked at your numbers, the billable transactions, and I'm just looking at it sequentially. We can also look at it YOY, but sequentially, when I looked at it for ease of communication, the billable transactions went up from 18 billion to 25 billion, right? And revenue didn't grow at the same pace. So is there a disconnect here? Could that always happen, that the billable transactions would move up quite a bit, but the revenue growth may not be commensurate?
Not exactly, but you are right. It's a combination of market mix. We operate from various geographies. Like if you talk about Africa, where cost per SMS is maybe lower than as compared to European countries. If you talk about the email as a solution, we process over 3 billion email transaction, which is very low in terms of realization, but very high in margin. At the same time, when you talk about some banking customer whose traffic started coming to our platform, like India is, say, like classic example of India, where 10 to 11 paisa or even 9.5 paisa is a combination price. So overall email contribution and plus the Colombia market is also very low in terms of cost per realization, but very high in margin. So our volume in those markets also increased a lot because we serve almost 50-70% of the enterprise customer in those markets, and our volume did increase in those markets. So it's again combination. You can say that our volume will not directly relate to our revenue every time, but it depends. The kind of guidance we are giving to our stakeholder right now is over 50%. That is indeed because based on certain customer which we have in pipeline in European countries or in Middle East countries. Maybe in Europe, if I send just 10 million SMS, which is equivalent to 200 million of Colombia. So one should not take that as a volume against our revenue, because it's all about different geographic mix, and we operate from almost all the geographies. So there might be one geography who can contribute higher volume in a particular quarter, and some may contribute less. So it's a combination of everything. So one should not treat our revenue in that way.
Okay. So this uptick in guidance from at least 40% to 50%, is it at least 50% or 50%?
It's at least 50% is the right 50%. Way.
Yeah. So this uptick to at least 50%, Rajdip, is it on the back of some European clients that you've lined up, or some recent, I believe, BFS wins that you announced, which I presume start taking shape in the current quarter? What gives you this confidence?
So, Neeraj, if you see our revenue mix also, like H1 against H2. So our H2 is always better than H1. Like that is the historic performance we have shown in past also. So our H1 is always 45% and H2 is always 55%. And with the current run rate, even if you just analyze, like we are almost reaching to 2,800 crores or 2,900 crores. And even if I just give guidance of 50%, it is 3,000 crore. So I think with current run rate also, we can achieve 50%. And if all goes well, maybe it can be more than 50% also. But I want to stick to at least 50% at this point of time.
Yeah, I mean, no. If I just look at pure arithmetic, Rajdip, then on the back of a 93% YOY growth in Q1, if you are averaging out 50%, then you are going to have a couple of quarters of fairly lackluster growth, pure arithmetic wise.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think we're very bullish about our growth, Neeraj, and I think we don't want to just give some kind of guidance, but definitely we can overachieve our guidance for sure.
Okay. What are the risks to this, Rajdip? I mean, because world over there's conversations around slower growth, consumer or companies might pull back on their spends. Could this have any kind of bearing on your operations or your clients' activities?
Not exactly. And as I said, there are certain large BFSI customers which we have onboarded in last quarter, and we started getting those traffic now. And India itself is a very large market. Like it's over $1 billion market now, and this market is really adopting digital channel of communication more than any other part of the world. So I think overall potential within India itself is very huge, and global market also, if you see, adoption of digital communication is growing every day and day. So we don't see any kind of challenge on a digital adoption, because digital adoption is definitely going to be there in coming quarters or coming years. And as the digital adoption is going to be more and more, we as a company will definitely get a benefit out of it. So we don't see any challenge as far as the revenue guidance or revenue is concerned, to be honest.
Got it. Rajdip, one final question. Just clicked to me a conversation that we had, I don't know how many quarters ago, but some quarters ago, wherein there's this whole piece, wherein some of the US peers of yours were also very active and the stocks were very active as well. And the conversation point about how at some point of time in your life cycle, you would actively make a dash towards higher margin geographies. And make a bit to improve that set as well. What is that? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what's been the strategy change or the strategy from then until now, and how do you envisage the next 2 or 3 years? You are already into Europe with the large BFS clients. What about NA? What about some of the other higher margin geographies?
So definitely, yes, like with the acquisition of Mr. Messaging or even Masavian, definitely the margin is much higher than Root Mobile, you can say that, and apart from that, I think we really want to get into a voice, like UCaaS solution, which is like, we still have a decent kind of a voice platform, but we really want to acquire a company in this space. And that is one area which we are very bullish about. And we believe that very soon we'll try to announce something on a voice based acquisition. And plus, we believe that the authentication is going to be changed. The way people or enterprise right now authenticating their customer base, it may have a different way to authenticate in coming years down the line, because people want a seamless authentication rather than entering OTP. So there might be different use cases will arise where people want a seamless authentication. So I think keeping that in mind, mobile identity is one area which is going to play a very critical role in coming years for seamless authentication. And we as a company will definitely try to focus on that. Either we invest or acquire something in that space. We are already discussing with few companies in that space. And very soon we might announce something on mobile identity as well.
A large ticket acquisition?
Not exactly. We always want to have a tuck-in investment, because it's very easy to enhance our product portfolio rather than just getting a large ticket. Smaller is fine because we understand technology well and we understand how to integrate these companies. And we always try to focus on the founder's vision. If they are really having a vision to grow with us, and we are happy to align with them.
My last question, Rajdip, as we sit at the end of the first quarter and almost at this, end of the first half of the current calendar, do you envisage a higher growth rate of the magnitude that we are talking about for FY23 for an X number of years in the future, or is it difficult to say? Because, for example, there are gaming companies who are coming in telling that the growth rates of the current years could well continue for the next 8 to 10 years. I don't know how they think that far, but they do. I'm trying to understand from your business. It's a relatively a new age business compared to a few others. How many years of high profile growth before you become stable?
So one need to take that as a very different way. What kind of geographies and what is the digital adoption in those geographies? When you talk about emerging countries where the digital adoption still is not at the peak, and that will take another 3 to 5 years, like for India or Africa or other market, Latin America, to actually adopt the digital acceleration. So I think for next 5 years, we don't have any challenge, because we believe that some of the market where we operate now has a huge potential. And that is the reason we invested in those markets. And in next 5 years down the line, the digital adoption will have a various new use cases, because if we say WhatsApp or even RCS will have a evolved ecosystem during that time. And if we are early mover in that space as well, and we will get the advantage of those channels.
Wish you all the best, Rajdip. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Neeraj. Pleasure to connect with you. Thank you very much.
And viewers, thanks for tuning into this conversation.